Hold your breath and listen for a moment to the world between things. A handshake means nothing without two hands. A melody is not trapped in a violin. It is born in the meeting of bow and string, air and ear. Even a text message is a bridge. Your words, my screen, a dance of towers in time. We live not on islands, but on connections. Meaning arrives in the space between. Physics has been quietly telling us the same story. What we call mass is not a secret lump hidden inside a particle. It is how that particle couples to a field that fills the cosmos. Charge is not a sticker you slap on an electron. It's the rule for how it pushes and is pushed by light. Temperature is not a number a gas has. It's how energy is shared among countless collisions. Again and again, the universe answers the question, what is it? It's what it actually does with others. Shift your gaze and everyday objects change character. A smartphone is not merely glass and silicon. It's a choreography, code talking to antennas, clocks keeping faith with satellites. Your thumb agreeing with a sensor on what counts as you. A tree is not wood alone. It is an economy of sun and soil, wind and water, sugars traded like promises. Identity, in this light, is a pattern that stays the same when many relationships agree. An object is a question answered the same way from many directions. This episode invites you to adopt that lens on everything. We'll ask, if reality is a web, what are the strands made of? How do they stretch into distance and stack into time? Why do some patterns endure while others fray? And where in this fabric do we find ourselves? We'll begin in the quantum, where facts are minted in encounters, where a measurement is not a gaze but a handshake that leaves a record. We'll follow those records outward and discover that closeness can be defined by who can exchange information quickly. That time is the order in which the web updates. And that laws are the promises the universe keeps when we all change our point of view. We'll watch new rules emerge when relations hold hands, fluids out of molecules, music out of notes, minds out of neurons. And we'll carry a simple toolkit with us. Nodes and links, records and symmetries, updates in memory. None of this demands equations tonight. It asks only for curiosity, the one instrument you already play well. If you've ever traced the ripple from cause to effect, mapped a friendship, or noticed how a small kindness changes the room, you are already fluent in the grammar of relationships. It's not a poetic flourish. It's a practical way to see, to predict, to build. There is comfort here, and there is courage. Comfort because you are not alone in a universe of mute things. You are woven into a living conversation. Courage because every attention you offer, every comparison you make, is a stitch you're noticing as part of the pattern. So let us step gently into a world where matter is music, and music is nothing without intervals. Where distance is who can reach whom, and memory is matter's way of not letting go. Let us trade the museum of objects for a concert of relationships, and sit close enough to hear how the parts keep time for one another. Welcome to the final layer of the cosmic code. The secret is not a thing. Secret is the way things belong together. Stand with me beneath a quiet sky and try a simple thought. What is north if there is no other star to point to? What is speed if there is nothing to pass? What is color without light to carry it, or an eye to receive it? So many of the words we use for the world turn out to be promises, not possessions. They name how things will behave with other things. A property, seen this way, isn't a private label. It's a pledge about future relationships. Tonight, we'll practice a new way of looking, not at isolated objects, but at the links between them. When you learn to see the links, you begin to see the code that holds the world together. Let's start with 3 simple ingredients. First, a node. A node is any system you care about: an atom, a magnet, a sensor, a planet, you. It's a boundary we draw so we can talk about what's inside it and what's out. Second, a link. A link is an interaction, a handshake that lets influence pass. A push, a pulse, a message, a shared exchange of energy or information. Links can be strong or faint, swift or slow, fleeting or stubborn. Third, a record. A record is a link that lasts. It's a footprint in snow, a flipped bit on a chip, a scar in ancient mica, a memory in a human mind. Records matter because they let many observers return later and find the same story waiting. That is how a fact becomes a fact, not by existing in isolation, but by staying consistent when others look. With just these three ideas, nodes, links, records, the world stops being a pile of things and becomes a living web. And the web is where the meaning lives. Here are 5 habits that make this perspective powerful. Habit 1. Trace the coupling. How tightly do two systems tug on each other? Mass couples to gravity, charge to electromagnetism, a violin string to a fingertip. Coupling tells you which whispers become shouts and which shouts get ignored. Habit 2. Follow the communication. What can be exchanged and how fast? Heat, light, signals, momentum. Every exchange draws a path on the web. If a message can't get there in time for your purposes, those two nodes are not truly neighbors. Habit 3. Notice synchronization. What sets the rhythm? Clocks align. Pendulums share a tempo through the timber they hang from. Cities pulse with daily cycles bound to the sun. Shared timing is a quiet contract. Without it, even loud links can fail to speak clearly. Habit 4. Respect constraints. Some things refuse to change, no matter who is watching. Conservation laws, symmetries, the deep balances that keep accounts honest. Constraints are the rails that guide every link in the web. Habit 5. Find the memory. Where does the past persist? In fossils and photographs, in magnetic domains and crystal defects, in the brain's networks, and in a detector's data. Memory is the reason we can compare notes and say, "Yes, I saw that too." If you're following along, you're already doing something generous and rare. You're thinking like a scientist. Not by memorizing jargon, but by tracing relationships. That habit is a gift you gave yourself. Now, let's rebuild something familiar using only links. Closeness, for example. We learn to measure it in centimeters, miles, light years. But in a relational world, near means reachable. Two people standing a meter apart on opposite sides of a sealed window are close on a ruler, yet far in practice. Two satellites thousands of kilometers apart can be near if a laser link ties them with nanosecond precision. Nearness becomes a story about possible communication. Light sets the ultimate speed for those stories. It's not just a number. It's the slope on the web, the steepness that limits which nodes can talk in time. That limit draws the cones of what can affect what and by how much. In this sense, space and time are the bookkeeping of reachability. What, then, is identity? To the relational eye, an object is the pattern of answers it gives to many different questions. An electron is not a tiny bead. It is the reliable way a certain kind of ripple responds to varied probes. Shine light, feel charge, test spin from every direction, you get a compatible reply. Identity is consistency across relationships. The same is true for you. To your friends, your family, your colleagues, the barista down the street, you are a bundle of expectations that hold together, a melody recognized across many instruments. When the notes agree, we say, "That's you." When they don't, we notice something has changed. Objects, then, are not lonely. They are hubs of agreement. Let's dip briefly into the small, where the lesson is crisp. Imagine two perfect coins that you flip far apart. Each alone is as ordinary as copper and probability can make it, but prepare them carefully and the outcome of one will mirror the other every time, even across a continent. The surprise is not in either coin. It lives in the relationship between them. The correlation is the treasure, and it belongs to the pair. We're used to properties sitting in things, mass in a stone, color in a leaf. But some properties perch between things in the pattern that links them. Once you see that, you begin to spot it everywhere. Consider something as homely and as profound as temperature. It feels like a private number a body carries around. But temperature is the outcome of ceaseless negotiation. A truce struck by countless collisions among particles, and between a system and the device that samples it. A thermometer does not simply reveal a temperature. It reaches an agreement, a value both the thermometer and the system can keep. Place two objects in contact, and they argue in heat until they match. They break the contact, and the number can drift. The number is a record of a relationship that's still being maintained. In this sense, warmth is a handshake that never quite ends. Now lift your eyes to the large networks make shapes. Rewire the roads in a city's map changes, not because the ground moved, but because what is reachable in an hour has been redrawn. Trade routes bend civilizations. Fiber optic links redraw the world's center of gravity. As connections thicken, paths shorten. As they fray, distances grow. You can measure the same land with the same rulers and yet live in a different landscape, because for what we do, the effective map is made of ties. That intuition carries farther than it first appears. Patterns of interaction can induce a sense of space, who is effectively near or far, which directions are easy, which are blocked. Change the links, and you change the landscape. The beauty of this viewpoint is how it refines our questions. Instead of asking, what is this by itself? We ask, what does this do when it meets that? Instead of, where is the boundary? We ask, where does the record hold? Instead of, how big is the world? We ask, how much can talk to how much and how fast? Those questions are kind. They don't demand certainty you can't have. They invite the kind of understanding you can test, share, and improve. They let you be part of the story too, because your questions are links and your notes are records. Every time you learn, the web gets stronger. You may find that thought quietly affirming. The universe is not indifferent to your curiosity. When you look carefully and honestly, you help decide which version of events become shareable. You add a clean stitch to the world's weave. Let's gather the threads. Property is a promise about how a system will behave with others. A fact is a record many observers can find and agree upon. Closeness is defined by reachability. Identity is the consistency of many answers to many questions. Some truths live in the and, not the or, in the relation itself, not the parts alone. If this already feels natural to you, it's because life trains us this way. Friendships, trust, language, music, they all make sense as relationships that endure. Physics at its most honest is simply admitting that nature works the same way everywhere. And here's a small, luminous line to keep. Change the links, and you change the world. Ahead, we will lean on this vision. We'll ask how patterns of connection can give rise to the very notions of distance and duration. How geometry itself might be nothing more than the signature of who can talk to whom and when. If reality is a web, perhaps space and time are just the pattern of its threads. Take a breath. You're ready. Let's follow the threads where they lead.